The Denver twilight was a crisp veil, dusting the city's glass towers and brewpubs with a golden chill. It was early October, and I'd just gotten back to our Lodo loft from a 5-day logistics conference in Phoenix when I found it. A single pearl earring on the bathroom counter, its silver clasp glinting under the vanity light. It wasn't mine, obviously, and it wasn't Kate's. She wore minimalist studs, always joking about my fancy taste in her simple gold ones. I picked it up, the pearl cool and smooth, and felt a snag, like I'd hit a pothole in a well-planned route. I'm not the guy who panics over details. At 36, I've learned most shipments have tracking. I'm a supply chain consultant. I optimize routes, catch delays before they derail. Kate and I had been married 6 years, our life a sharp mix of her graphic design, freelance gigs, my client audits, and weekend hikes in the Rockies. But that earring was a detour in the manifest, a piece that didn't fit. I set it down, grabbed a stout from the fridge, and stood by the loft's brick balcony, the Platte River glinting below, the city's hum laced with traffic and distant bluegrass. Maybe it was a friend's, I told myself. Maybe a client's. But Kate hadn't mentioned any visitors, and my consultant's nose, the one that smells the supply, snag said something was off. Kate was out when I got home, her text saying she was at a design meetup at a Rhino art gallery. She'd been busier lately, her evenings packed with client pitches or portfolio reviews, her phone lighting up with notifications she'd wave off as spam. I didn't press either design work was booming, her minimalist posters in every coffee shop from Boulder to Aurora. But now, that earring was a misrouted package. I sat at our live edge dining table, the earring under the pendant light, and noticed something else, a faint scratch on the clasp, like it'd been yanked off in a hurry. Kate came home around 9, her laptop bag slung over her shoulder, her blonde hair loose under a beret, a denim jacket over her black turtleneck. "Hey, road warrior," she said, flashing a grin, kicking off her sneakers. She smelled like cedar and ink, her usual post-gallery vibe. "Phoenix was all spreadsheets and sunburn, huh? Dry. Number crunchy. Missed you," I said, keeping it steady, the earring heavy in my pocket. "Found this in the bathroom." I held it up, casual as a delivery check. "Yours?" Her grin didn't fade, but her eyes flicked to the earring, quick as a missed deadline. "Oh, that," she said, laughing softly. "Probably from a friend. I had some people over for a project brainstorm. I'll ask around." She shrugged, moving to the kitchen to pour a kombucha, but I caught the way her hand tightened on the bottle, a subtle jolt in her flow. It was a smooth redirect. Kate was a master at aesthetic designs. Her Instagram, her curated life, but a friend's earring left behind, that didn't deliver. I smiled, let it go, and we ordered takeout green curry. Her pick while she talked about the gallery, her voice bright but her fingers drumming the table too fast. The city's lights pulsed outside, the air sharp with autumn, and I knew I was being rerouted. The next morning, I started tracing. Kate was at a coffee shop, working on a client logo, so I had the loft to myself. I checked the bathroom counter again, no other clues, but the scratch on the earring's clasp was distinct, like a signature. I searched her jewelry box, feeling like a jerk, but found only her usual studs and a few necklaces, nothing matching the pearl. Then I checked her laptop, left open on the couch. Her password was still our hiking trail code, a small win. Her emails were mostly client threads, but one stood out from J. Ellis. Subject, Rhino Night. It was short. That spot was electric. Again soon. Her reply, "You know it. Dated last Friday," when she'd said she was at a solo work session. I Googled J. Ellis. Up popped Julian Ellis, a 39-year-old gallery curator in Denver, all sharp suits and artsy glasses in his bio shots. His Instagram was a feed of gallery openings and craft cocktails, including a post from the Reno meetup, a neon-lit bar with Kate's poster in the background, captioned "Art Vibes." She liked it, commented a star emoji. My gut twisted, but I kept digging. I didn't want to believe it. Kate was focused. Not sneaky, she'd spend hours tweaking vectors, her eyes alive with precision, texting me goofy memes from her desk, but that earring was a misdelivered crate. I checked her phone later while she was napping on the balcony, hating myself but too far in to stop. Her texts with Julian E. were buried in a thread labeled client, but they weren't about design. "You make nights better," he'd written. "Only with you," she replied, with a heart. I set the phone down, the loft's AC, a cold hum. I needed more than text, something she couldn't redesign. On Tuesday, Kate said she was meeting a client at a Lodo whiskey bar. I wasn't buying it. I rented a plain gray pickup less obvious than my red Tacoma and followed her. Denver streets shimmered with autumn dusk, the air crisp with pine and exhaust, the sky a bruised purple. She parked near the bar, stepped out in a leather jacket I'd never seen, and went inside. I waited, parked across the street, my pulse loud against the bluegrass drifting from a nearby patio. She didn't come out for 2 hours. When she did, a man was with her, tall, in a tailored coat, with the polished ease of a curator. They didn't touch, but their body language was too synced, too close. I snapped a photo, zoomed in, definitely Julian from his Instagram. I drove home, the city's lights blurring, my anger sharper than the chill. Back at the loft, I got logistical. I'm no hacker, but I know systems. I installed a tracking app on her phone, hidden in a fake weather widget she'd never noticed. It showed her at the Lodo bar again the next Thursday, then at a Rhino gallery the following night. I checked her bank app, 110 at the whiskey bar, 180 at a boutique for work gear. She hadn't shown me. New jacket, maybe for him. I found a receipt in her laptop bag, tucked in a pocket. 2 old fashions at the bar, dated last Tuesday. Bartender's name, Tessa. I went to the bar the next day, found Tessa, and played the worried husband. "My wife was here," I said, showing Kate's photo. "She okay?" "Saw her with someone." Tessa nodded, pouring a draft. "The designer?" "Yeah, she's in a lot with that curator guy, Julian, always chatting." I tipped her, 20 and left, my hands clenched. I started asking around. Our neighbor, Leo, a brewer who knew Kate from art pop-ups, mentioned seeing her with a suit guy at a Rhino gallery opening a month ago. "Thought he was a client," he said, polishing a keg. I forced a grin, my chest tight. Then I called Kate's friend Mia, a fellow designer, under the guise of planning a surprise portfolio showcase. Mia was vague, but said Kate had been obsessed with Rhino and hanging with a new art crowd. New crowd. Right. The evidence was stacking, but it wasn't just about the manifest. I was spiraling, caught between fury and doubt. I kept seeing Kate's smirk, the one that lit up our hikes, now aimed at him. I wasn't sleeping, the Denver chill seeping in, the city's hum a constant taunt. Where had I gone wrong? Was I too analytical, too buried in routes? Kate lived for creation, her posters, her designs, her need to craft beauty. Maybe Julian was her canvas, a stroke I couldn't draw. But that didn't make it right. I got lucky one morning. Kate left her sketchbook open, and inside was a doodle of a cocktail glass with J.E. scrawled beside it, dated last week. I snapped a photo, my stout bitter, the city still waking. This wasn't a glitch. This was a reroute. The moral weight hit me like a delayed shipment. I could confront her now, reroute the whole operation, but what then? Divorce? Sabotage? I didn't want to be the guy who crashes his life, but I couldn't be the one who ignores it, either. Kate wasn't just cheating, she was redesigning a narrative, one where I was the rough draft. I was done with that. I started planning, not just to catch her, but to make her see me, the guy she thought she could outdesign. The earring, the doodle, the text, they were my tracking log, and I was ready to deliver. Denver's October chill had sharpened, the city skyline glinting like a blade against a rocky silhouette, the air crisp with pine and urban hum. A week had passed since I found the pearl earring on our bathroom counter, its scratched clasp a signal of Kate's detour from our marriage. My investigation had assembled a tight manifest. Flirty text with Julian Ellis, the gallery curator, labeled client, GPS tracks to a Lodo whiskey bar, a cocktail doodle with his initials, an old-fashioned receipt, and Leo's remark about Kate with a suit guy. Proof was only the first ledge I needed Kate to face the reroute, to see the husband she'd edited out of her masterpiece. I planned the confrontation like a supply chain audit, precise and unerring. No blowout in our Lodo loft, no ambush over stout. I chose the Rhino Gallery where she was co-hosting a design showcase on Friday night, her stage for minimalist posters and art world clout. She'd invited me to check out her work, so I RSVP'd with a breezy text, saying I'd swing by to support her hustle. "Can't wait to see you shine," I wrote, and she replied with a star emoji, unaware of the delivery I was prepping. She thought she'd streamlined her lies. She was about to meet the consultant who'd tracked her shipment. That morning, I finalized my log. The earring, the doodle, printed texts, GPS screenshots, the whiskey bar receipt, and a photo of her and Julian outside the bar, their easy grins a stark frame. I added a printout of his gallery's Instagram post from the Rhino event, Kate's poster in the background, captioned art, "Vibes overkill, maybe, but Kate lived for visuals, and I wanted her to feel the weight of her own palette." This wasn't just about catching her. It was about rerouting the narrative she designed without me. The day dragged, the Denver dusk biting, the bluegrass from a street busker, a jagged rhythm in my head. I kept re-optimizing our marriage, searching for the bottleneck. Was it when I got too deep in audits, my evenings lost to logistics dashboards, or when her design career surged, her studio a fortress of vectors and mood boards? Kate thrived on creation her posters, her layouts, her need to distill chaos into beauty. Julian, with his curated charm and gallery glow, was probably her new sketch, a muse I couldn't match. That didn't excuse her. It just made me wonder where I'd missed the delay. I dug deeper into Julian, needing to know the guy who'd hijacked my route. His LinkedIn was clean, curator at a Rhino gallery, former art director in Seattle, no family listed. His Twitter was louder threads on Denver's art scene, photos of craft cocktails, a retweet of Kate's poster launch, dated 3 weeks ago. He wasn't a mastermind, just a guy with a knack for framing moments and enough polish to blend into her world. That should have softened the blow, but it didn't. Kate wasn't chasing forever, she was chasing a spark, and I was the cargo she'd left at the dock. I called Kate's friend Mia again, playing the proud husband, planning a toast for the showcase. Mia was chatty, probably sipping a latte. "Kate's unstoppable," she said. "She and Julian are like this art design duo, always at that whiskey bar, vibing." I thanked her, my stout warm, the loft's brick walls closing in. Duo, another point on the map. By afternoon, I was wired, pacing the balcony, the Platte River's glint mocking my focus. The moral dilemma was a supply chain snag in my brain. Confronting her would clear the jam. But what then? Divorce was the fastest reroute. But did I want to scrap 6 years over a fling? Or was this about ego, proving I wasn't the guy she could outdesign? I could derail her send to text to her clients, tank her freelance rep, but that felt like sabotage, and I wasn't that reckless. Or was I? The chill sharpened everything, like the truth was crystallizing in the frost. I arrived at the Reno Gallery early, the space a raw mix of exposed beams and neon art, the air heavy with cedar and IPA. The crowd was Denver hip, designers in flannel, curators in blazers, sipping kombucha to a lo-fi indie track. I wore a tailored jacket, blending in but feeling like a logistician at a sketch session, my log tucked in a slim portfolio. I claimed a spot near a wall of Kate's posters, their stark lines glowing under track lights, and waited. Kate swept in at 8:30, a vision in a black jumpsuit that caught the neon, her blonde hair swept back, a gin martini in hand. She worked the room like a designer, all poise and precision, pitching her work to collectors, her laugh a sharp note over the indie beat. I watched her, my chest tight, remembering the woman who doodled trail maps on my reports, her hands smudged with ink. Now she was a stranger, crafting a world I wasn't part of. Then I saw him, Julian, in a charcoal coat, lingering by a sculpture, his eyes tracking her. Their glances met, a silent stroke, and my blood surged. I waited, letting her think she was untouchable. She spotted me by the posters, waved, and glided over, her smile a perfect render. "You made it," she said, kissing my cheek, her cedar scent sharp. "This shows my soul. Glad you're here, Nate." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, my voice level. "Found something in the bathroom." I slid the earring across the ledge, its pearl stark under the gallery's lights. Her smile flickered, her eyes locking on it. "What's that?" she said, her voice tight, still playing the artist. "Nate, you kept that? It's just a friend's. You're overanalyzing." "Am I?" I set the doodle down, Julian's initials clear. "Then there's this." I opened the portfolio, spreading the texts, GPS logs, receipt, and his Instagram post like a failed delivery. Her face didn't move, but her hand gripped her martini, the ice clinking. "Nate, this is ridiculous," she hissed, her eyes darting to the crowd to check for onlookers. "You're hacking my life? That's low, even for you." "Low?" I leaned in, my voice low, sharp as a rerouted truck. "Low's lying about clients while you're sipping old fashions with Julian Ellis. Every Tuesday at that bar. I've got your text, your GPS, even Tessa the bartender knows you're vibing. Want to call it a mood board again?" Her jaw clenched, and for a moment, I thought she'd bolt. But she stayed, her eyes flashing like a glitched design. "You're blowing this up," she said. "Julian's a collaborator, a spark. You're too busy with your routes to get my art." "A spark?" I laughed, cold and cutting. "You're texting him hearts, buying jackets, sneaking to Rhino. What is it, Kate? His gallery, his artsy vibe, or just the thrill of cutting me out?" She flinched, but she didn't break. "You don't understand," she said. "You're so analytical. Julian feels alive, he gets my vision. This," she gestured at the papers, "is nothing. It's not what you think." "Nothing?" I tapped the doodle. "You're in deep, and I've got the tracking. Keep designing, Kate. It's almost a masterpiece." A collector hovered nearby, sensing the static, but I waved them off with a tight smile. Kate sipped her martini, her eyes locked on mine, recalculating. "What do you want?" she said finally. "A divorce? To ruin my show? Go ahead, Nate. You're not the hero you think you are." "I want the truth," I said. "No filters, no spin. You owe me that." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "Fine. Yes, I've been with him. It's not love, it's a rush. You wouldn't get it. A rush." The word hit like a stalled shipment, but I didn't blink. I cracked a facade, forced the delivery, but it didn't feel like a cleared route. It felt like a supply chain collapsing. We stood there, the indie track swelling, the gallery's neon too bright, like it was spotlighting our unraveling. I could have walked away, left her with the log and the collectors. But part of me needed more not an apology, but a why. Was it really a rush, like she said, or was she chasing a vision I'd failed to draft? I thought about our early dater dragging me to dive bars, her laugh when I botched a pool shot. Where had that Kate gone? "You could have told me," I said, quieter now. "If you needed a rush, you didn't have to reroute us." She looked away, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "You wouldn't have seen it," she said. "You're always so mapped out." It stung, because there was a grain of truth there. I'd been consumed, my life a grid of routes and audits. But that didn't justify her. Nothing did. I closed the portfolio, left the earring on the ledge. "Keep your rush," I said, "but don't expect me to reroute it." I turned and walked out, the gallery's neon fading, the Denver night sharp and cold. The city pulsed, daring me to act. Divorce was the cleanest delivery. But did I want to cancel 6 years entirely? I could derail her send the text to her clients, crash her design grid. Or I could walk away, re-optimize, build a life that didn't stall on her lies. The doodle was still in my pocket, a weight I wasn't ready to unload. I kept walking, the Rockies looming, and felt the first hint of a new route not closure, but momentum.